Thanks, everyone. I hope you all managed to have a cup of coffee or tea and have a nice, relaxing break. Welcome back for the second of our panel sessions this morning, looking at Brazilian government initiatives in particular. A very esteemed panel. On the far side, to your left, to my right, Igor Mañez Nazareth. He's Director of Innovation of the Secretariat of Innovation in the Ministry of Development, Industry and Foreign Trade. Next to Igor is Maria Luisa Cravo Wittenberg. She's Executive Manager for Investment Attraction at Apex Brazil, based here in London. Next to Luisa is Zol Carlos Ferraz, who's Managing Director of the Brazilian Development Bank. And just next to me here is Elias Ramos de Souza, who's Director of Innovation at FINAP, which is the Brazilian Innovation Agency. Each of the panelists is going to talk for about 5 minutes, roughly, on the various initiatives in Brazil, and then we'll sort of open it up. I'll ask some questions, and then hopefully, as before, you'll have some sort of interesting questions and points to make. So without further ado, as time is tight, Igor, do you want to sort of set us off?
Thank you. First of all, it's a challenge to speak after my minister gives such a great speech and an overview about how Brazil is doing things in terms of innovation, but I will do my best and hopefully try to answer one of many questions as you have. Thank you all for being here. It's an honor to have the opportunity to speak a little bit about our program, the Innovate in Brazil, and also to speak a little bit more about what we are doing in terms of innovation in Brazil. We are an innovative country. As Minister Armando Monteiro just said, in the last 5 years, we attract a lot of R&D centers to Brazil. And the reason that we are able to attract and receive these centers is because we have a very strong market, we have a robust innovation ecosystem environment, we have a very high level human resource, and also we have instruments from the government that can support this kind of investments. Regarding the market, Brazil is amongst the 10 top markets in several sectors. For example, we are the second market in producer and consumer in biofuels. We are the third largest market in computers and also in cosmetics. We are the fourth market in the automotive sectors. We are also the fifth in the medical device, the sixth in pharmaceuticals, and the list goes on. I could share lots of more information about the consumer markets of Brazil. In terms of innovation, we have been evolving a lot, and you heard this from my minister today. Brazil is the country that invests more in R&D in Latin America. Since 2000, we increased the investments in R&D for 5 times. The number of doctors and masters in the last 10 years, we increased it 2 times. These very qualified human resources are working already in the R&D centers in Brazil, and they keep working in those centers that come. The number of engineers that graduate in Brazil to date, it's in 10% of the engineers, represents 10% of the numbers in the total of the graduate students in Brazil. And one curious fact is that in 2011, it was the first time that Brazil, the number of engineers in Brazil was higher than the number of lawyers. So that's something these engineers are working in these R&D centers and innovating in Brazil as well. Regarding venture capital and private equity, Brazil, in the last 4 years, the total investment increased 2 times in the last 4 years. The angel investments increased very fast as well. The number is in the last 2 years, we increased 35% the investments of angel investments in Brazil. And we are also working to improve our instruments, our laws. We are working closely with the private sectors to improve our innovation law with new instruments to support innovation, with new mechanisms to make universities and companies work together, and several other mechanisms and instruments that, for reasons of the time, I cannot detail here. You have the opportunity today to learn a little bit more from my colleague Luisa Cravo about our program and how we want and we intend to receive you, the companies that want to install your R&D centers in Brazil. You also will have the opportunity to speak with the two main institutions in Brazil that foster, that finance innovation, BNDES and FINEP, and hear about our government support to innovation. Once again, I thank you all for being here, and I invite you all to innovate in Brazil. Thank you.
Luisa.
Thank you very much. It's also a pleasure to be here today. Just a few words on APEX. APEX is the Brazilian agency for export promotion and investment attraction. We're linked to the Ministry of Industry, Development and Trade, and our main duty is to promote Brazilian exports and also to attract investments into Brazil. So in terms of investment attraction, we're working mainly on attracting venture capital and private equity investments to Brazilian fund managers and also directly to Brazilian companies. And we're also very much engaged in attracting greenfield and joint venture investments for those companies which are looking at manufacturing in Brazil. We see opportunities in a number of sectors, including healthcare, renewables, the automotive sector, and there are many other sectors and segments in which there are opportunities for manufacturing in Brazil. And for the past 3 years, we have also been developing a program with the Secretary of Innovation of the Ministry, which is called Innovate in Brazil. So what this program aims at is at promoting Brazil as an investment destination for R&D centers and R&D projects from private companies. And also it has established a very well structured support for those companies which are interested in Brazil, in developing R&D in Brazil, so that we put all the information together, we provide the right connections to these companies, and also identifying the best locations for these companies to be establishing or to be developing their R&D in Brazil. So that's a little bit about Innovate in Brazil.
Thanks, Luisa. Joel, do you want to talk about the development bank and sort of the way in which money is used and sort of investment can help companies?
Yes. Before going to BNDES, I want to make a reference to the previous session. And what's my take of the previous session is basically the challenges associated to innovation. The challenges are immense. The opportunity is huge. And the unknown is very high. So basically what I took from the previous session is that to foster innovation, you must innovate in the way that you do. You foster or you make innovation. Yeah? So the objective implies necessarily that you have to change the way that you do things. And this is very serious. And our organizations traditionally are not designed for the unknown. So I'm going to take 2 cases, before talking about BNDES, 2 cases of experiments that were mentioned by the minister to show you there are some initiatives that are trying to address these challenges in Brazil. The first one, and all of them are associated, innovation, innovation is for something. And, but behind that, you need investment, and behind that, you need the financing. Yeah? So following that logic, on the investment side, there is a very interesting initiative called MEI, Mobilização Empresarial pela Inovação, the Business Mobilization for Innovation. And this, it is a qualitative change from our history, in the sense that this is more or less 5 years, this initiative. And it unites the leaders of Brazilian business community, and they are defending something that is very basic, that the protagonism of innovation lies with the business sector. And since they went to a stage and they did this declaration, they hold meetings with a very high level of mobilization. They identify not only in terms of the policies, they do a very thorough analysis of the issues that they consider as relevant. They produce this as contribution to the Brazilian policy. And they also try to foster and mobilize more business into innovation. So this is new. We haven't had this in our history. The second one is the initiative that was launched about 2.5 years ago called Inova Empresa. And this basically is a change in the way that we support innovation, in the sense that we designed a program that was very successful. The minister mentioned we aim to contract in 2 years something like 24 billion reais. And we managed to do, at the end of the second year, 30 billion reais, and involving projects or programs, innovation programs by more than 600 companies. And the way that we designed this, and in partnership with the private sector, was to depart from strategic areas like health, and within health to identify challenges, specific challenges, and put these challenges, and these were discussed and substantiated to see if there would be potential demand, potential interest, and a minimum of capabilities by the private sector and the research community. Given that, the challenges were defined and a tender was open for, not for innovation projects, but programs, innovation programs of companies. Then there would be a selection, and they would have time, and it was a progressive process from the initial intent to the third or fourth round until a complete innovation plan was set up and then evaluated. So it was sort of challenge-driven. There was a competition, if you wish, among companies for the best project. And the most important was that we worked very hard to mobilize the Brazilian instruments available. So, FINEP and BNDES, although we are very specific in different bureaucracies, we work together using the instruments of each one. So this is, very innovative, not painful, painless, but that we managed to have good results. In terms of, and the challenge that we have now associated with those two initiatives is first to scale up the Inova Empresa and to enter into new activities. And the second, on the May side, is actually to have more mobilization, more efforts from their part in terms of them engaging, demonstrating that actually the efforts they are doing resulted in more companies doing more. At BNDES, basically, BNDES is a very large development bank, and what is more important, it's a very diversified in terms of the instruments that we operate. We operate from small to project finance, to grants, to investment bank. And the challenge that we have is to embed in each of the instruments that we operate the innovation component. Yes? And this is not easy. And we have progressively managed to do that. We multiply by 8 the disbursements, annual disbursements to innovation in the last 8 years. And we sort of, the effort that we have to do is basically to embed in the head of each of the BNDES staff that he has the capabilities to deal with this, like Ms. Anderson was saying, this different investment that many times does not have the necessary collaterals that banks so much like. So it's a different, it's a challenge. And what is our leverage? And what is the advantage of having a public development bank? Basically, we are very patient. We are long-term, we're very mission-oriented, and being so, we are prepared for uncertainty. Yes? And given that innovation is involved to a great extent with uncertainty, I think that it is our mission to do, even if it is very difficult because we have our bank side, we ask for the collateral, we ask for the guarantees, but I think that we are in the right track, although a lot remains to be done. So,
Thank you, João. Elias, from your perspective, how does FinApp complement what BNDES is up to?
FinApp is really a complement of BNDES because it was born from BNDES as the department, or the department inside BNDES. But I'd like to say first that a key step in the maturation of the Brazilian system of innovation was the approval of the innovation law in 2004, just 10 years ago, and referred to by the Minister Armando Monteiro. And the innovation law gives the guidelines for the collaboration between public and the private sectors in Brazil, and create a new financing instrument in Brazil that is the grants for companies. Before that, it was not possible to provide grants for companies in Brazil. And also the innovation law gives guidelines for the participation of the public agencies in private companies through equity. The innovation law was specifically important for FINEP because it consolidates FINEP in a key position in the Brazilian innovation system as the Brazilian Innovation Agency, because FINEP is the only agency in Brazil that can provide grant for companies. And we operate with different instruments, and beyond grants, we have also loans and equity to participate in the capital of companies. As João said, the Inova Empresa program was an important initiative from the Brazilian government that started 2.5 years ago. In this program, we have proposals from Brazilian companies that amounted to more than $35 billion, and we approved projects that amounted about to $10 billion. And I think that this program has been very important to boost the private investment in innovation in Brazil. Also, we have grants like BNDES for universities and research institutions. And FINEP can operate in all of the chain of innovation, from the basic research to the development of new products and the deployment of new products into the market. And as I said, it can make this, support this kind of projects through different financing instruments. Also, it is important the support that FINEP has given to the laboratory from universities that can support innovation in Brazil. We have about 100 science parks running in Brazil nowadays. We have laboratories of high technology in different universities in the 27 states of the Brazil Federation. So we have a strong infrastructure to support research and development in our country. Also, we have some programs directed to the development of startups in Brazil. Recently, we launched a program named FINEP Startup. Through this program, we intend to support projects from startups that have a good project, a good technology, but that are not yet prepared to access the market. And we will support these startups with about $300,000 initially, and with the option of converting this support in equity if the company succeeds in the development of this project. I'd like to say that despite the Brazilian system is a young innovation system, it has produced very good results. We have in Brazil some technology giants as Petrobras in the oil and gas industry. We have Embrapa as a leader in the agriculture and food technologies. We have Embrapa as a leader in the aerospace industry. We have Vale in the mining industry. And so I think that Brazil is nowadays a country prepared to do very strong collaborations with the countries that are leading the innovation process around the world.
Thanks, Elias. Louisa, you mentioned before a number of sectors that Brazil is strong in. You mentioned renewables, healthcare, automotive, amongst others. I was reading a couple of days ago about sort of Brazil's strength in the tech industry. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Brazil is third in the number of sort of Facebook users in the world and fifth in the number of Twitter users and seventh in terms of global IT investment. How important is the sort of technology, the software industry to Brazil?
Yeah, I think it's a big industry. It has very strong segments, and we have some Brazilian companies which are actually internationalizing, so they're investing abroad and also developing R&D abroad, which shows how strong it is. At the same time, I think we have opportunities for strengthening other sectors and for developing more R&D from IT companies in Brazil as well. We have a number of companies already doing that and commercializing the products that they're developing and the technologies that are being developed in Brazil worldwide. So we have some examples, for example, Cisco and EMC. They have very good examples of technologies developed in Brazil which are now global. So, and at the same time, we're also attracting investments, productive investments into IT and promoting IT abroad as well.
And you mentioned R&D there. Several R&D centres have been set up in the last 5 years. How are you making sure, and this is to anyone on the panel, how are you making sure that existing centres are sort of fully, the focus is on existing centres as well as new R&D centres?
You mean the private from a specific company?
Yeah.
Well, basically, once a corporation takes up a decision to set up an R&D center, it can use different types of instruments that are available, from the tax incentives to the financing from FINEP, from BNDES, or from local development agencies. So the financing is there. The patent system is there. But I think that the best way that to ensure that there will be support is basically it lies on the side of a corporation. If it manages to design its innovation plan and to propose what is willing to do in a substantive way. So many times, in the different programs that BNDES runs for health, or for the software, or for the oil and gas, what we have is a collection of very good projects that they run through the machine fine. But also we have a large number of very generic ideas that cannot cross the first door because they lack the basic elements, either from an innovation plan or from the basic financial side of it. So there is an effort to be done there. And the other challenge that we have is when you have great ideas and the entrepreneur lacks the management capacity, he's a scientist, lacks the network of business. In this sense, it is our evaluation that depth probably is not the right instrument to support that type of initiative. And then the risk capital becomes relevant. Now, the risk capital, BNDES has different funds, from the whole scale, from the equity to the seed. Now, we are on the third generation of a seed capital. Basically, we put the resources and we do a tender for the manager, so we don't manage those funds. And these managers, then they have to go after corporations or startups or scientists, not corporations, scientists with great ideas. This is long-term. This is, each of these, the Criatec is the name of the program. We are the third generation. The first Criatec managed in 2 years to bring together 36 startups that they are being supported. They already, some of them already, we already invest in so on. But it's a slow process, very slow. So basically, to make it short your question, patience and tenacity is a key elements from both sides, yes? To stand up corporation, like BNDES and all its rules, and from our side, to understand the aims and the dreams of the entrepreneurs.
Time is tight, so if anyone has a question for any of the panelists, do you want to raise your hand? That would be great. Just in the middle there. We'll just get a microphone to you.
Yes, hello, I'm Manu Dugal, founder of Brazil Empresta, fintech business focused on Brazil. I'd like the panel to comment on the apparent lack of innovation in the financial services space. It's something obviously very close to my heart and our business.
Innovation in the financial service. Well, I think that the Brazilian financial system is very innovative in the financial service related to where the balance sheets of most banks are short. Yeah? So everything that is related, short-termism prevails in Brazil. On that level, they are very, very, very good. They have all the solutions, they have all the ITs, they have... Now, when it comes to a longer term of more risk, when risk starts to be an element or you need long duration, then the Brazilian economy faces a huge challenge that is not to do with this government, the previous government. It's a long-standing problem that basically the term structure of the interest rate is short and high. Yeah? So this is BNDES of FINEP, they come to mitigate that type of problem. But still, we think that the bond market is probably the point of entry of a more sophisticated, more long-term oriented financial industry. And we are thinking if we could design instruments, especially instead of being grants. Now, basically, did you see the Financial Times editorial today? Yeah, it's interesting that the Financial Times is complaining that the current government is planning to withdraw the grant and change the grant to loans, the 600 million pounds that they use for grants in the way that FINEP does, that they want to shift this from loans, and the Financial Times are defending to keep grants. It's interesting. So the point of entry is bonds. And I think that we are thinking in designing instruments that instead of grants, to use the bond notion. Yeah? So we invest in a project. If the project fails, we lost. But then if the project results, then we want to reap a profit from that. The problem is how you consolidate is not the corporate level, it's the project level. So, but bond market is.
I'd like to add that FINEP also has supported some projects related to the finance sector. And also in Brazil, there is some programs from private Brazilian banks that support projects from startups or other companies that can develop solutions for the finance sector.
Thanks. On that note, thank you, panel. Thank you, Igor, Maria Luisa, Zol, and Elias. That's all we've got time for. And we're coming up with the next panel, which is being chaired by Richard Excel, who you saw earlier, which is looking at success case studies in Brazil. So we'll just sort of reset the stage, and that will start very shortly. Thanks very much.
Thank you
so much.